Wonderful, thank you. So today I'm here to talk to you about the purpose of higher education and the role of critical thinking. Critical thinking is actually something you're going to hear a lot about in the next year. And if you're continuing in the social sciences and humanities, it is something you're going to hear a lot throughout your studies in general. So for the next 4 years, it'll be something that'll sort of be drilled into you. But what is this term? Well, in order to understand what this term means, we first need to understand what higher education is and why we have higher education. So that's basically what I'm here to talk to you about. And I'm also here to sort of model for you the research method, sort of how you're expected when you're at university to do research. How do you make an argument, and how do you support that argument? And so what you're going to have here is my argument over for what higher education is about, and my argument as to how critical thinking fits in to that purpose. All right? So it's not just what I'm saying it, but how I'm saying it. Okay. So here are the questions I'm trying to answer in this lecture. So first of all, what is, and please notice the in parentheses plural, a nice hint for you that there may be more than one purpose, right? So what are the purposes of higher education? Within those purposes, so in the context of university, what is critical thinking? And then how does critical thinking help those purposes, inform those purposes? Okay. I know you guys haven't been here that long. You had, induction week last week, just starting your classes this week, but I hope this picture is familiar to you. This is where we are, right? UCL. So it's a university, and all of you have chosen to attend a university. It's all right? All of you have chosen to attend one. You've chosen to come here consciously. Nobody put a gun to your head, may have had parental pressure, but it implies there's a value. Right? There's something worthwhile in coming here. So what value does this building have? Does this institution have? But not just for you as individuals, but for all of us who are here. So you have teachers that are here. Okay, so it's our job. We get paid to teach. But why are we paid to teach? Why are you paying to come here? And more importantly, UCL isn't just a university, but it's a state university. It's funded partially by the government. So why do states, why do countries invest in higher education? So it's not just you guys who are investing, it's countries. Some of you are scholarship students, so your countries are investing here. The British government invests in this university. So what's going on? Why this? Well, the most commonly cited purpose, the one where when you start reading policy documents and talking to each other, is the following. As students, you're here in order to create higher chances of employability, right? So this means you come to university to get the skills and the knowledge you need to hopefully, when you graduate, get a better paying job that allows you to have more economic freedom. Pretty logical, right? I know that's why I went to university, right? If I don't go to university, I'm stuck working at Burger King. I want to go to university, right? Okay. Now for the state, the idea then becomes, by having each individual be able to get better jobs, you begin to have an economy that is more competitive, because you're now focusing on high skills areas. Your area of focus in your economy becomes high skills technology, for example, or it can be things like service-based economy. These are economies where you need high skilled labor, and they're also economies that make more money, that generate more money. It's all right? So as a state, you can now afford more for your people because you have a stronger economy. You're now competitive on the global market. Okay, so I'm claiming, please note, I say most commonly cited purpose. So when I say most commonly cited purpose, who exactly am I citing? All right, so here's who I'm citing. UNESCO, so it's the UN division sort of responsible for analyzing and investigating and encouraging education. You have the OECD, so the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development. This is an organization that has 34 member states, including a great deal of EU countries, the United States, New Zealand, Mexico, Brazil, India, so big economic powerhouses. Prime Minister David Cameron, a face you will, I'm sure, see plenty during your time here on the news. And then the World Bank, which is also a global organization just like the UN. So what specifically do these organizations say? Well, first one on our list, UNESCO, they claim that education is focused on consumers. So that means you guys are consumers. Consumers are people who buy something and consume it. So every time you go to Gap, you are a consumer of Gap products, right? So you, as students, are consumers of university education, right? So it is a private good, largely benefiting individuals. So it's something that individuals benefit from, getting a better job. And institutions, so UCL and things like that, compete in order to get more consumers, okay? Then we have the OECD. They say something very similar, but they're a little bit more explicit. They say that higher education should be ranked. So you know when you have those ranking systems? It should be ranked based on, first of all, do they offer courses and within courses the skills that are career focused? So are these courses designed to help you with your career? Second of all, are students able to complete their degrees? So can you finish it? Because obviously if you can't finish it, higher education didn't help you get a better job. And then thirdly, how successful are students in getting jobs upon completing university? So according to the OECD, these are the three most important areas that should be looked at when ranking a university. Not research, not outreach programs, not widening participation, but are the courses designed to help you with your career? Can you finish the course? And can you get a job? Okay? Then we have David Cameron. And David Cameron says that universities can ask students to pay more. So this is him defending, raising student fees. He says that students can pay more because students get better jobs when they finish university. And so the idea is you pay for university, and we should make students pay more and more, and the government pay less and less, because it's really about each individual getting a better job, and when you get that better job, you can pay back the loans you took out in order to get that degree. All right? And finally, we have the World Bank. And for me, the World Bank is the most obvious argument for this view of higher education as jobs focused. And what the World Bank says is high-performing higher education systems, so systems including universities, produce a variety of skilled workers and employees sought by the labor market. So you guys will become, because you come from a competitive, quote-unquote, university, will become good employees that people want to hire. They will look for you. And then it says the following. World-class universities, which I'm assuming most of us will include UCL in that, world-class universities are recognized for their superior outputs. You've stopped being consumers, have you noticed? You are now outputs. You are now the product, right? They produce well-qualified graduates who are in high demand on the labor market. So the labor market is now the customer. And you are the product that we are producing to sell. And what you get out of it is being bought at a higher price. All right. So let's review the logic. And it is quite logical. High skills training, high skills job. A high skills job means higher wages. And if you have a state or a country filled with workers that are high-skilled, getting high-skilled jobs, you're going to have a stronger economy because you have richer people investing in your economy, spending money in your economy, and paying taxes in your economy. You're making a better state. Sound logical? Make sense? Okay. But here's the question. Does the evidence support the logic? Does going to university increase your chances of getting a better job? I argue no. All right? I argue that actually gender, ethnicity, and more important than those two, wealth, as in how wealthy your family was, actually dictates whether or not you get a better job after university. That if you're of an ethnic majority, if you're male, and you're rich already, then you will get a good job. All right? So, how do I make this argument? Well, look at the evidence. First, now I'm going to zoom in and out. So I'm going to look at global, and I'm going to look at specific contexts, and then I'm going to look at global again. And I'm also going to look at those different factors. So gender, ethnicity, and social class. So the first one up here is gender. Gender because it's the easiest to see numerically, right? So university attendance gender gap is 0.95. Okay, what does that mean? If it was a number one, this would be there are as many women as men studying at universities globally. So we have 0.95. Statistically, this is as close to equal as we can imagine. So we are educating our women just as much as we are educating our men globally. That's pretty damn good, right? We have managed something great, gender equality, whew. Economic participation after university gender gap. Now this isn't just about women having a job versus men having a job, but it's about equal access. So being able to get the same level job, right? And suddenly the number drops to 0.57. So will all my women stand up? Women. Up, 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 up. All right. A little bit of uneven distribution in here, but we can figure that out. All right. Right about here. Sit down. All right. Those of you who are sitting down, sit down. Thank you for coming to UCL. I hope you enjoyed your studies, but you won't be working. We appreciate the money you spent on us. We're very happy that we could invest that. You're not getting a job. The rest of you can sit down. All right? Same amount of education, but half of you, well, a little less than half of you, which was what that was, won't get a job. Okay. So, why do universities not increase women's opportunities for good employment? It's one of my questions. Now, with ethnicity, it's difficult to look at globally because in different regions, it's different ethnicities that are minorities. For example, if you're from Turkey, your ethnic minorities might be Armenian or Kurdish, right? So you really have to zoom into different areas to look at ethnicity. So I chose the United States, mainly because due to Hollywood, due to pop culture, most of us have a sense of what the US is. It may not be an accurate sense, but we have a sense of what the US is. So I thought that was a nice sort of example to zoom in on. That and also the numbers are some of the most reliable you can find. So 2009, the beginning of the recession, the numbers of unemployment haven't quite increased to the amount they're going to increase, right? And you're looking at this point, an overall unemployment rate of about 8% in the United States. So it hadn't reached the increase that it's going to, right? 8%. Okay. Unemployed white university graduates. 2.8% unemployment. That's awesome. If you're white and you go to university, it really is increasing your chances of getting a job, especially when you're looking at the state unemployment percentage. But look at black university graduates. Now you're talking about 7.2. almost the national average. So why do we have 3 times as many unemployed black graduates as white graduates in the United States, if university is meant to be the great get an opportunity to get a job that it is? Okay, so why does color affect your opportunities? And now I'm going to give you 3 examples regarding social class and money. I'm going to stay in the US for the first example, and then I'm going to move to the UK in the second example, and then I'm going to go back to not quite global, but major economic powerhouses. Okay? So, since 1973, and I chose top 10%, but really you could even argue top 1%. The famous 99, well, the 99% really is the 99% from the Occupy movement. But I figured we'll look at just the 10%, we'll widen that a little bit. And basically, the top 10% wage earners are the only people in the United States who've had an increase in real wages. When you look at the charts, it's magnificent, the amount that it goes up. All others, so 90% of the US population has maintained the same or even gone down in real wages. When I say real wages, I'm not talking about number, because you have inflation. So I'm talking about what that dollar buys. Okay. So, however, in that amount of time, you've had a huge increase of middle-class families going to university, sending their children to university. But they're not making more money. So, why do only the wealthier classes earn more money, even though the middle classes are getting university degrees? What's going on? All right, then we have the UK. This is where we're at. We should look at the numbers here. Now let me give you a caveat as to what I'm showing you here. Just like I did in the United States, I looked at the UK. And in the UK, the only people who have had a significant increase in real wages, the major universities, when you look at university graduates, are graduates of Oxford and Cambridge. Oxbridge, right? But when you analyze who goes to these universities, suddenly it doesn't seem, oh, these universities are great, but rather these universities are full of rich kids. Because 90.2% of Oxford students and 88.5% of Cambridge students, so basically the vast majority, come from families earning more than 100,000 British pounds a year. So why is it that the universities that do seem to produce individuals who can make more money, have better jobs, come from schools where you already have to be rich to get in? Okay. Final one. OECD. So I had mentioned the OECD earlier. You've got 34 member states of the OECD, but only 23 make this sort of data available. So I have to go off of the 23 that have the available data. And of these 23 OECD member states, there is an average of 31% of all students who go to university, so 31% of you, if we're going to be crude about it, will drop out due to financial problems. You will drop out because you can't pay your fees, or you will drop out because something will happen to your family and you're suddenly expected to work full-time to take care of your family, or something else of that sort, financially related. Not related to your scores, not related to how good of a student you are. Okay? Now, if going to university from the state's point of view is about having as many individuals with high-skilled jobs that then will increase your economic competitiveness, why are these states losing on a 31% capital increase? It doesn't make sense. Something else is going on. There's some sort of structural design in society that doesn't allow these students to continue on. All right? Something is wrong. Gender, ethnicity, and from my perspective, the biggest one being social class. So what does that mean? So it means that higher education's purpose of getting better jobs is not being fulfilled because of the structure of our society, the way our society is designed. Now, in order for university to be able to meet this demand of higher jobs, it needs a second purpose. Now please note, I'm not saying a different purpose. I'm not getting rid of the first one. Quite the contrary, I think the first one's very important. But I'm saying we need a second purpose at the same time. And that purpose is to create active citizens. So, I have it here. So, create active citizenship for a city, region, state, globe. There are different contexts, and different problems are in different contexts. You have some issues that are very much state-based, some issues that are even city-based, and you have certain gang problems in certain cities that don't exist in others, right? Or it can be global, like the gender numbers we saw is very much a global issue, right? So, but the point is an active citizenship that promotes the improvement of that said context. Now, I think we're all familiar with the word citizen, right? I was born in Portugal. Yes, the American accent, I know you thought I was American. I'm Portuguese, right? I have a Portuguese passport because I was born in Portugal with Portuguese parents. I am a citizen of that country, but I have done nothing to be that citizen. That is a passive citizenship. What I'm arguing for is an active citizenship, where you actually have to do something for your state, region, globe, right? That it is an awareness. So what do active citizens do? Okay. All right. So here I have a quote from Torres. And he has a very sort of clear view of what an active citizenship does. It ameliorates the social differences, inequities, and inequalities pervasive in capitalistic societies. Okay, ameliorate, just in case we're not familiar, means to make better, right? So they're trying to make better. So basically, higher education promotes active citizenship, meaning that it helps to create in students an awareness of who is excluded from the socio-political economic discussion, so who has no voice, in order to then help create more equitable opportunities for these people who are excluded. Okay? Here's another quote for you. And I like this one because he sort of breaks it down further in terms of how higher education creates active citizenship, or better yet, what are the different parts of active citizenship. So first of all, higher education should have students acquire a deep understanding of and commitment to the tacit norms of a discipline. Ooh. All right, what does tacit mean? Does anyone know? Okay, go ahead. Passive? Implicit, yes, exactly. Implicit, hidden, accepted without being questioned. They're not made sort of aware to people. So you have tacit norms. You have these norms that are sort of accepted as, well, this is the way things always are. Things are never the way they always are. Things aren't just because. But you have these norms. And so by creating this awareness that you have tacit norms, you begin to be aware of what's going on underneath. Who has a voice and who doesn't? Why? Why not? And you have that in all disciplines. So what's going on in your discipline that elevates this voice but doesn't elevate that voice? Okay? Then you learn the challenges of contemporary work, and not just in terms of what skills do you need to do a good job, which are important, very important, but also what are the challenges in terms of when you go out there to find a job, what are you not allowed to say, and why are you not allowed to say it? What are you expected to represent and to go along with? What are you expected to deny or to keep quiet? Why? All right? Then gain an immediate sense of what citizenship might mean. And I like the use of the word might, because it changes according to your context and according to who you are as an individual. An active citizenship might look very different here than it would in South Korea. Doesn't mean one's right and one's wrong, but how does an active citizenship behave in a particular context, right? So how it might be, right? And then, and to me, the last one is the most important. Develop the powers of self-critique. Now, why on earth do we need self-critique in creating an active citizenship? Basically, you need to find out how you fit into the structure. What have you tacitly agreed to? What are you going along with? Why do you go along with it? Who taught you to go along with it? Do you, when you consciously think about it, actually agree with that? And if not, what do you do? Okay, so, and the idea is, from these specific areas, you create students that are capable of shaping, changing, and leading society. Because let's face it, guys, you are the eventual leaders of the society from which you came, or this society as well. You are the highly educated, and that is one of your responsibilities. Alright, so we have this notion of active citizen. What does critical thinking have to do with this? Remember I said that was actually one of my focuses? Alright, well, critical thinking is normally thought of as a problem-solving skill. Right? Something where you have a problem, you need to solve it, you logically break it down into little pieces, and then from that figure out what the answer is. However, when we're talking about an active citizenship, it becomes more than a skill of breaking it down and then pulling it back together. It's not something you do in a classroom that you don't do when you go out to the pub with friends. Right? Now it's about creating critical beings. Right? This notion of beings, individuals. So you critically engage with the world, with themselves, and with knowledge. So this means you question, and when I say the world, I don't mean the whole global world, though it could be. I mean your contexts. Question it. Hey, we just walked by that guy who smells really bad of booze sitting on the street corner. I always thought of him as lazy. Is he? What's going on? Right? Oh, yeah, I noticed so-and-so wasn't in classes anymore. I think she dropped out. What happened? So questioning your world, the things going on around you, right? Questioning yourself. This is so important. What am I doing? Why am I doing it? Where do I fit in? And then your knowledge. Right now I've been throwing data at you. I'm throwing an argument at you. Question it. Do you buy it? Does it make sense? Is it bull? Right? So that's what critical beings do. And this is just for our friend who is shaking his head that he didn't agree. Yeah, right. Skeptical cat is skeptical. Not buying it. How are universities supposed to do this? How are universities supposed to make all of you into these critical beings that are going to question everything and save the world? It's pretty idealistic. And I would tell you that I can't make you. Your teachers up there, the professors you're going to have in the next 4 years, they can't make you. We can't change you. There's nothing we can do. So we're basically on a fool's errand. University has this purpose of creating citizens. We can't do it. However, there are things we can do to encourage it. In the end, the choice is yours. You can do it while you're in your classes, and then as soon as you leave here, say, screw that, I don't care. I want my job, I want my money. I hope you're a ethnic majority. I hope you're male, and I hope you're wealthy when I say that. But the point being, we can't do anything about it. But what we can do is try to encourage it. And we encourage it by 3 things. Now, these are not 3 separate steps. These are not, oh, I did this, now I do that, and finally I do this. These are intertwined. You do these at the same time. And as you do one, the other one begins to happen. Okay? So the first step is critical consciousness, right? This is the awareness that there is something wider going on in a society other than what you yourself directly experience. What does that mean? Basically, I'm a woman and I'm an ethnic minority, or partially an ethnic minority. I am part Kimbundu from Africa, from Angola. So in Portugal, I could potentially, easily be one of the unemployed, both female and ethnic minority. Whew, I could think I'm really unlucky. I don't get any breaks, man. Life sucks. But I think it's just me. I think it's my problem. I don't relate it to a wider social problem. Or I could look at my, friend over there who seems to got the degree, was able to complete it on time because no financial issues, got a great job, is earning all this money, is getting all these promotions, and I can think, dude, that guy's so lucky. It's not fair. That's not critical consciousness. Critical consciousness is when I go, whoa, hold on. There is an inherent structure in society that is keeping a group of people from being able to move forward. That's critical consciousness. So that's the first thing universities, once again, it's not a series of steps, but that's one of the things that universities attempt to do, is create this awareness. Especially you guys going into the social sciences and the humanities, there's a lot of this going on. And don't think just because most of you are economics students, or some of you are, that it's less. Economics is full of this. It's done more numerically, but there's a lot of this going on. Okay? Then the next step, dialogue. Right? You cannot be an active citizen, you cannot be a critical being without dialogue. So now what does this mean? This means going out there and researching. Who's saying this? You've noticed I've had a lot of citations on my PowerPoint. I'm telling you who's saying this, for you to then find out more about them. Look at other perspectives. Read perspectives from different contexts. What do they say? Why do they say it? And what are they suggesting? How does that change what I've always thought? How does that inform what I've always thought? How do I respond to that? This is the dialogue. It's not just simply saying, this is my opinion. What's your opinion? Cool, I disagree with you. That's not dialogue. That's just chatting. That's verbalism. Dialogue involves listening, taking it in, internalizing it, and changing. And from that comes this notion of praxis, which is thought-informed action. And so from that, you do something. Doesn't need to be big. I'm not suggesting you all go out and start revolutions. But even as little as talking to someone else, telling them, hey, I found out this the other day, and I discovered that there are these other perspectives on this. What do you think? By spreading, if you will, a little bit like a virus, critical consciousness. All right, we have about 10 minutes. And so what I had here, and I'm not sure we're going to have time for both, were two different thought experiments. They're not really thought experiments, but sort of trying to apply how this works. So how does a critical being, so using consciousness, dialogue, and praxis, respond to these numbers? And you should recognize these numbers. 31% of dropouts due to university dropouts due to financial difficulties. All right, the first thing becomes the awareness. This is a social breakdown. So it's not looking at this number and going, yeah, those guys are unlucky. Life sucks, but it's always been that way, it's always going to be that way. There's no cause, there's no effect, it's just that's the way it is. There's always cause, there's always influence. So the first is recognizing that. From there, questioning it. See, the last slide has all of my references on it. This is an OECD report. So the OECD is reporting on the state of higher education in fellow OECD states. Now, this is just one figure from a report that's 130 pages long. So what else are they saying? What other numbers are there that cross-section? How does your individual state match up. For example, in the United States, the number is actually almost 60%. Actually, I think it's slightly higher than 60%. In the UK, it's slightly higher than 40%, right? And I think the other big state is New Zealand. I can't remember their exact number. But the point is, how does yours fit into it? How are you doing, right? And we've been in a recession, right? So is it going down? Is it going up? Is it stagnant? And then the ever-loving question that unfortunately you won't be my student, so you won't know, why? Why? Okay? And then from that, action. This can be as broad sweeping as coming up with new policies, new grants, scholarships, trying to widen participation by going into secondary schools or even primary schools to raise awareness of possibilities and options. It can be, once again, as small as simply telling someone else and engaging in dialogue with someone else. And then I do want to end with this one, because we talked about women before, and as a woman, I want to go back to talking about women again. Maybe I'm biased. All right, so remember 1 equals complete gender equality. So we're talking about now political empowerment. Political empowerment means that women have representation, have a voice at the highest level of their state, right? Now this doesn't mean representation in there's one man and there's one woman in parliament. For every one man there's one woman. But this is about issues that are important to women. So you could, in a hypothetical state, I question whether it's possible, but in theory, you could have a government that's completely male, but they consider issues that are important to women and reach a 1. Right? So this is about voice, about being listened to. So the highest is Iceland at 0.69, so 0.7. Not bad, not great. It's not like university where we have almost a 1, right? Only 3 countries have 0.5 or higher. So women's issues are only considered half as often as men's issues. And in 103 out of 135 countries, including my own, including Portugal, we are looking at lower than 0.25. So let's have our women stand up again. Yes. All right, so once again, we have this line. Sit down. So you are our wonderful unemployed. You may want a voice politically at this point. All right, and then from up here, we'll have these women sit down. You guys are the only ones with a voice and with a job. Yay, university did something for you. Aren't you glad you paid to come here? The rest of you, you have no voice. No political voice. What you think is important and what you think your government should do to help you or to help you in your circle will not be heard. You can sit down. Now, I'm not going to go through the steps, but the idea is this has just created a consciousness, I hope, at least amongst the women in this class. And then from there, the dialogue, the research, the questioning, and the action. Okay, we have 5 minutes. So, a review. Purpose of higher education? I still agree. It's to find a good job. But because of the social structures that keep certain individuals from having access, or from once having access, being able to actually get that job, there is a second purpose, which is to create an active citizenship. Now, within that, critical thinking goes beyond problem-solving skills into a way in which you engage with the world, you engage with yourself, and you engage with the knowledge that is coming to you, that you read, that you hear, right? And from that, critical thinking informs these purposes by hopefully creating a critical consciousness that leads to a dialogue and hopefully a thought-informed action. And from there, what questions do you have for me? Come on. Yes.
What are the 3 countries?
I don't know, actually. I can't remember. I know Iceland and then the other two. I can't remember, but I think they're Nordic.
And maybe Sweden.
I heard a voice. Okay, go ahead.
Don't you think that some of the numbers might be taken out of context? I mean, for unemployed white and black people, it's usually
In the United States?
in the United States. Might it be taken out of context? Because they might have different skill levels. They might have
Well,
different.
but you'll notice-
degrees, different.
But then again, why would black Americans be getting different degrees than white Americans?
They might choose to
But why?
because of their background, probably.
And what is their background? What percentage of African Americans in the United States are poor versus what percentage of white Americans are poor, right? And you suddenly see that over half, I think it's more like 70%, 68-ish, I can't remember the exact number, of African Americans in the United States are poor. So what degrees are they choosing? And then why aren't these degrees leading to jobs? It goes back to, once again, I would claim economic class.
I think there's prejudice against the woman, but there's some more things about that.
Mm-hmm.
I read an article about women not being in higher positions. I think that is due to birth sometimes, because women just get out of their jobs, and so employers are not likely to hire them.
Okay.
They will be out.
This is
Other reasons, I think.
That's a very good point. I think that's a fabulous point to bring up, is the issue of motherhood. Women, employers assume, and probably correctly, that especially a recently married woman is likely to end up having children and then having to take all this leave from work, and it's not in their economic interest to hire a woman. Do any of you know the laws in Sweden regarding women and men and who gets time off for children? There it's parental leave, it's not maternal leave. And men get the same amount of leave as women. And actually, they've had this in place, they began doing it in about 1995. And from there, you actually have just as many men, just as many fathers taking off maternity leave as you do having women staying in work because their husbands are the ones who stay at home. So when the government imposed laws that encouraged men to take paternal leave instead of women taking maternal leave, and the idea is to encourage both, you saw an evening out on the employment side in terms of who takes leave when, and also, as a result, pay and other such hiring practices. So it implies that if you change the context through political means, it can potentially create equity. Now the question becomes, what is it about Sweden that they've done this and nobody else has? What's specific to that context? And what's transferable? And we are out of time. Thank you.